Welcome to Inspire Campfire, a podcast where ordinary people tell their stories of extraordinary adventure. These are campfire stories meant to inspire the rest of us to light the fire within, get outside, follow our dreams, and return to tell our own stories. Ready? Let's strike the match.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Scott Wurzbacher, and today we're going to talk about waking up, healing, and strength, backed by science and fueled by the voice inside that calls us to adventure. Today's guest is Frank Wiseman from right here in my home city of Charlotte, North Carolina. Frank is an award-winning salesperson, a professional lifestyle and sales coach, a health podcaster, father, husband, and founder of After Drop CLT. Frank has a personal journey of physical healing, both his own and that of a close friend. It's a story that took him up a mountain on another continent with nothing but shorts and led by the one and only Wim Hof, the Iceman, who you may have heard of. Frank was amazed by what he learned through the experience, and when he returned to Charlotte, he and his friends decided to share the life-saving principles he learned by starting After Drop Charlotte. I've had the chance to experience After Drop personally, and today I am so excited to bring you all in on it. Frank, welcome to the campfire.
Scott, thanks for having me. This is really exciting to be able to talk about some crazy stories with you.
Yeah, some crazy stories and the good that is coming out of it that you're bringing to the world now. And it's pretty awesome. I got to experience it directly. I want to bring listeners up to speed. Let's just go right in. Can you tell us what After Drop is?
Yeah, man. It's remarkable how much it's catching on. But After Drop, in my opinion, is the first workout program based purely on science. And we are using the term biohacking. You see that a lot anymore, but really using the principles from that I learned through the Wim Hof method, the breathing techniques, the cold exposure, but then working with elite performance with Rich O'Neal to really bring that third component, that third leg of the stool in for complete balance. So you keep movement, which allows you to get not only physical gains, but also more importantly, the mental gains. And mental health is something that I've struggled with through my life. And this has been game changer for me. So I just wanted to share it with the world.
Yeah. And so there's a lot to it. And I want to definitely get into kind of each of the elements of what y'all are doing at After Drop. And you mentioned Rich O'Neal, also a Inspire Campfire past podcast guest. So check out his episode. It was also a great one. But, as we kind of talk about how After Drop came to be, you have a personal journey that led to the creation of this. And it's, there's a lot of years packed into this story. I wonder if we could just kind of go back to the beginning and talk about your journey and this sort of voice that called you to it.
Yeah, I'd love to, because it really just hit me in the face. In 2017, my best friend, Bill Guandolo, got diagnosed with plasma cell leukemia. I was in Breckenridge skiing, and I get a call from his wife, and Bill wasn't that much older than me. And I hear her crying and says, "Hey, Bill has cancer. He has 7 months to live." Actually, they don't know if he's going to leave the hospital. His kidneys are failing, his liver's failing. And, that hits you, because then you get your first real dose of mortality, I should say.
Yeah.
And, that took me a little while to deal with, because as somebody that's type A and wants to fix everything, there is no fix when your health goes, right? No matter how much money you have, no matter how much anything you have. So, and then watching Bill come back from that past the 7 months, lived another 6 years, and got with William King, his best friend from college. William King was actually the person that trademarked the term blue zones. There's 8 blue zones in the world, the healthiest places on earth. People live over 100, but not only live over 100, but they're the most active and the healthiest. And he got with William King, and Bill put together a program that allowed him not only to rejuvenate his body, but what I call help the doctor. The doctors were great here at Atrium and helped him with his cancer journey through the chemo, but his holistic healing was what kept him active. I mean, he stayed at work through this whole time. I mean, he was my boss, so not only my best friend, but my boss. And we watched that, and then the pandemic hits, right? And so we were like, hey, we got to tell this story. So that was where my journey began. Is I was out with clients every night of the week, drinking, being just in my 30s still, just trying to have a good time. And then you get hit with that and you're like, holy crap, I'm married, I'm about to have a kid, I don't want to die.
Yeah.
So to speak. And so that's where the journey started. And then throughout that, we started a podcast called Dead Men Talking. And the whole gist of the podcast was Bill was doing all these holistic modalities to stay alive. And I was trying to make that turn. I was at that crossroads that I didn't want to party anymore. I wanted to be healthier and have balance in my life. So I would test out everything he was doing and would call BS on the things, and it worked. And we tasted some bad things, and I've eaten some horrible things on the podcast. If you hear it, and like my eyes start watering, and then we find out some of it's bunk and some of it's Instagram selling, but some of it really works. And so that was where the journey began. And then through that, I ran into Wim Hof, and we started watching the videos, and Bill started getting in ice, and Bill started doing the breathing, and I started doing it, but we weren't doing it religiously, But then the pandemic hit and I got COVID, and I got COVID really bad. Like the ambulance took me off my bathroom floor. I couldn't breathe. The doctors were saying I wasn't getting better. My second baby was on the way. My wife's freaking out because she can't come see me. And I was the first time I was actually scared in my life. Like I live a pretty fearless life, but I was petrified that I wasn't going to be here for my kid. And that virus damaged my lungs really badly, and I couldn't walk around the block. I had an inhaler, and I was a normally healthy guy. I was an athlete. And then I was like, I really started learning the Wim Hof method and started watching the videos, taking the classes, doing it religiously. I haven't missed a day of breathing and since 21. And within a couple months, I was running again. And I was running around the block again, and I was playing tennis again and pickleball. And I was like, and then I just was a believer at that point.
So this is even before you go to actually do the Wim Hof the experience with him. I'm curious, like what is, you talked about like really learning all the stuff and doing everything even before you went to see him. What did that look like before you went to Poland?
Early on, it was just watching the YouTube videos, following along, watching other people that were doing it, listening to stories of people that were getting over MS, getting over Crohn's disease, getting over cancer, because that's what I was really wanting to do. I not only wanted to heal myself, but my buddy was still alive. And I wanted to find that silver bullet that would make his cancer go away if possible. You start WebMDing yourself to death, but the Wim method was really working for me. So I was on his app. I was on the WimHofMethod.com taking the fundamentals course, took the Power of the Mind course, which is 10-week course. So you go through all that and just learning to practice it, and then going to local clinics also, like Brandon over at the Dojo Jiu-Jitsu place on Central Ave. He's a certified instructor. And going to learn more about it. But the ice was a little tough for me. I'm not going to lie. I started in my bathtub just with cold water, and I gradually increased to get ready to go to Poland. I was staying 20 minutes, 25 minutes in the ice. And that wasn't the hardest part. The hardest part was warming up properly. And then hence the name Afterdrop. That's what Afterdrop means.
Okay. Yeah. I wanted to come back to that. So there's science behind Afterdrop. Can you give us some detail on that?
Yeah. Afterdrop's a medical term of the body trying to warm itself when you're almost close to hypothermia. It is when you're in the ice, your extremities close down your veins and your blood flow to keep the core alive. So the brain goes, I can lose an arm, but I can't lose my heart. So all that warm blood gets pumped to your center core to keep you alive and keep you warm. So when you get out of the cold, those veins open up and that blood starts rushing back to your organs, that cold blood. And that's what it's called, after drop. That's when you'll start shivering. Most people want to put on clothes or a blanket right away. And that's sometimes the worst thing you can do. You want your body to naturally heat itself. So you don't go into a hyperthermic state. And so I always say the key to the Wim Hof method is not the cold. Sometimes it's actually the warming up properly.
Okay. So, all right, we got a lot to unpack, because I definitely want to talk about the science. I want to hear the whole experience, and then we'll come back to the science piece. But for people that aren't familiar with the Wim Hof method, what are sort of the core elements of this method that you've been practicing?
Yeah, the three pillars of the Wim Hof method are breathing, first and foremost, the cold exposure. But the third, and I think the most important, is your mindfulness, the power of the mind. Wim holds 26 world records for climbing to the death zone in shorts and no shoes on, climbing Kilimanjaro in 2 days, and being able to acclimate his lungs without getting, altitude sickness. Running the polar ice cap in his bare feet, a marathon, running the desert with no water. And so the power of the mind, and along with the breath work and the cold, it strengthens the body, strengthens your mind, and gives you an overall just being strong and happy. Those are his key terms. Like, Wim says, "I want you to be strong, and happy." That's what we're going for. And that's what you really get to feel when you go and experience time with him, because he's a remarkable individual.
Yeah, I want to hear about that. So you already were healing before you went to Poland. Like this stuff was working for you.
Correct. Yeah. I haven't had a cold since 2021. And I have 2 little kids. I have a 2 and 4-year-old with green boogers in their nose constantly. So I know it works for me. I don't know if it works for everybody, but there was 400 people on that mountain with me that all said it worked for them. And some of them had some really, really bad diseases.
Hey everyone, it's Scott here. This podcast is a passion project for me because I absolutely love adventure. And it's thanks to the effort of my residential real estate team here in Charlotte, North Carolina, that many of you know as the W Realty Group, that this podcast gets funded. This awesome group of people have unmatched levels of competence and caring for our clients. If you know of anyone looking to buy or sell a home, our team serves the Charlotte, North Carolina market, but we can also help you find an agent anywhere throughout the US or Canada through our highly connected network. When you support our real estate business, you are also supporting this podcast. Thanks for listening, and thanks for your referrals. All right, so take me from I'm watching some YouTube videos, I'm doing some of these techniques at home, to I'm going to go to Poland and spend time with Wim Hof. How do you go from point A to point B there?
I knew, and that's a great question, because I know that's the whole point of your podcast is, taking those challenges. And I never thought I was going to be that guy. Like, all my friends were running marathons and triathlons. And then when I met Wim and I saw the power of it, I was like, I gotta go meet this guy. And I don't want to meet him in Denver, and I don't want to meet him in Argentina or Barcelona. I want to meet him in Poland, where it's the coldest in December.
Yeah.
And I want to do it the Wim way. Like, I want to take my body to the most extreme I can and see what it can do. And so the going up to that point was watching all the videos, learning as much as I can, but committing to the practice. And it's the commitment to the practice and the discipline, no matter how hard it is the key to making that trip very, very enjoyable.
So can you kind of walk us through what happened and the experience that you went through in Poland?
Yeah, it was magical, man. It was, we landed in Prague, and as you're walking through the airport, you see 400 Hoffers, just, people that love the man, like almost cult-like. It was kind of scary. Like, I think he could have told anybody, a lot of these people, do anything, and they would have, which is remarkable because it's such a positive vibe he has. But getting to know, and we were one of the few Americans over there, a lot of people from the UK, a lot of people from Germany. and from all different walks of life. I mean, I met this woman with a chronic lung disease that she could barely walk. I met people with MS there, cancer survivors, and all of them had the same story, that the Wim Hof method has changed their life. I mean, one lady with the lung condition, she climbed the mountain right beside me. I mean, and I'm reading the WhatsApp right now, and she's like, they're cutting my medication in half. They're not on as many steroids as I was, which were tearing up her stomach. Now, with going up to the mountain, did she want to turn back at times? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was hard for me, but it was definitely hard for her. And she just, through the breathing and the technique and just staying focused and keeping that mental edge to you, man, you watch people do remarkable things. And so it wasn't all about me, but just watching the people around me just inspired me.
How many people were in the group that you were with?
There was 30 of us and we were on the red team.
Okay.
So there was different teams. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So 30 of you, and you're there directly with Wim Hof. How long are you there?
We were there for 5 days.
Okay.
And training with Wim. We were with Wim every day. Wim was there every day. One day we were walking up to the waterfall, and all of a sudden Wim walks by barefoot, like a tribal robe on and a bongo drum. And he just walks right by you, high-fiving you. And we're wanting to jump off a waterfall and through the ice. And he's up on the hillside playing drums and singing and taking pictures with us. And it was just cool, man, to see somebody I didn't feel like he was about the money for him. It was just about sharing this knowledge that he's found through what he went through some really rough times. You know, his wife committed suicide and he was, living on the streets and drug addict and, all this stuff. And then to come and to create this is just unbelievable.
Yeah. And what was the kind of like the daily schedule for you?
We woke up, breakfast, then we broke off into our groups. And I was with Daniel Segobar. He was a certified instructor from Croatia. And he was as knowledgeable as Wim. Like, he had a different way to do his practice. So we went through all the different types of breathing. Wim's practice is basically based on Tumo breathing, which is learned from the Tibetan monks, how to heat your body. And so we learned that. We did a breathing practice for an hour, sometimes 2 hours, learning the science, learning the physiology, learning the chemistry of the body, because that's what the Wim Hof method and the breathing really does. It lets you become the alchemist. It's truly proven through the scientific studies in many universities that you can control your autonomic nervous system when everybody said you couldn't. Wim has proved that over and over again. And so we really learned that physiology. Then we do tests we go out, and when I say tubs full ice in the middle of the winter, we're in tubs full ice, and we're in for 3 minutes. We're heating our body up. Then we're back in for 5 minutes. Then we're out. And just, that was some of the toughest, hardest ways to warm myself up that I've ever been, because your feet are in snow still. So you're trying to warm yourself up, but
you're getting out of ice and then stepping into snow.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Wild.
But you're with such a good group of people, like the camaraderie makes it doesn't feel as hard, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Everybody's laughing. And I trained before I went there thinking it was going to be harder than it wound up being for me. But there was people that had never been on ice before at the Wim Hof Winter Expedition in Poland. And I mean, families that came together, and I watched them go in the ice for the first time and have to stay in for 10 minutes. And you want to talk about some facial expressions. I mean, and nobody wants to be the person that jumps out early.
Man, I love it. Okay. And then there was a mountain involved.
Yeah. Mount Snezka, which is about 1,600 meters high.
Okay.
It was a full day hike. And the challenge of that hike is you have to do it in your shorts in the middle of winter in Poland. And our morning started off at 8 a.m. We finished breakfast, and my friend Mike Libretto and I were in the lobby of this hotel and in just shorts. I mean, people were walking in with their ski gear on to go skiing, and we're all half buck naked, just sitting in the lobby waiting to go. And we walk outside and it's pouring down rain.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm like, great, we're going to be soaking wet, and then we're going to get into the freezing cold weather once we get up there. So the rain turns to snow, and we get to the bottom of the path. We start climbing, and it's just gorgeous, man. It is the most gorgeous, untouched earth you've ever seen. It's just snow everywhere. And you could see Czech Republic off in the distance. And it's just gorgeous. And we're hiking up in a single file line straight up the mountain. And then you cross that tree line, and the wind kicks up to 20 miles an hour, and the snow comes down heavier. And you're throwing snowballs, and you're laughing, and your skin's as red. It looks like you're sunburnt. And you just keep going, and it's, 4 hours. So, to the top, you just keep it, and I think it was -11. So it was pretty cool, man. It was just, and then you get to the top, and then we're all in a horse stance, like, chanting like, whoo, ha, whoo, ha. And like, there's 90 of us. There's 3 groups up there
Yeah.
at the top of this mountain, and everybody still has their clothes off, and then, and just taking pictures. And I got to say goodbye to my 2 friends that passed away, which led me to this journey. I buried something up at the top of the mountain to say goodbye to them. And it was weird, man. I know the Indians used to do that stuff, but it really felt freeing to let that go. And just, I was happy, just happy.
That's awesome, man. I love that. I wonder if you want to go into just a little bit more detail about what that was like for you, that letting go.
It was definitely sentimental. I had 2 pieces of something that belonged to each of them with me. And I lost my friend Bill to cancer, and he'd still be here if COVID wouldn't have stopped him from getting his treatment. And then I lost my best friend, Dan Abital, to a heart attack on Mother's Day in 2020. And that was eye-opening. So being that close to, I thought, heaven, and being that close to them, and just knowing that I was there because of them, and that I knew what I was taking back from there was going to help people maybe not have to experience what I did ever again. If I could, help somebody find a healthier path or give them an answer. Even if we help one person with After Drop, I think it's worthwhile. So,
yeah. Well, you already have. I already know that. One of the questions I was going to ask you was just, what your intention was with the trip to Poland. I feel like I might have just gotten a glimpse of that with, taking some piece of your friends with you to the top of the mountain. But what was the intention when you went on this trip?
The certification. Like, I really want to be certified in the method to teach.
Okay.
I feel like I know the science very well. I mean, I have a science background, so in chemistry, so I really enjoy that. But to have the certification, and I'm still not there yet. I still got to finish it. So I got to go back one more time. And it sounds so funny because you're talking about breathing and cold, but getting to that mindfulness piece and being able to portray that to somebody where it's enjoyable. Because think if I came up to you and told you, going, hey, I got this breathing technique, it's going to make you feel really great, but I want you to hyperventilate for 30 to 40 times. And then I want you to hold your breath until you feel like you're going to pass out and you can't feel your hands. But I promise you, it's going to make you feel great. That's a hard sell. So learning how to, explain it to somebody and put it into practice, more importantly. And that's where I think After Drop does. It actually gave me a reason to put that into practice, because it's a meditation to me. And a lot of people say they can't meditate because they can't sit still that long. And breath work's a great way to meditate and actually do work. Yeah. So that's why I did it. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. So Frank, I mean, I love this, and I'd love to get into each one of the elements. And you just went over the breath work a little bit. And so I wonder if we could just kind of dive in and actually talk about the breath work. And I'd love to hear a little bit about the science.
Yeah. So, taking it into the After Drop kind of, 3 pillars is the breath work is where it starts. And the breath work is a way to really charge the body. So just to give you what the breath work is, it is in through the belly, up through the chest to the head, and letting go. Not a long sigh out, just letting go. We call it superventilated breathing, because if it was hyperventilated, you wouldn't be in control of it. Superventilating, we're doing fast breathing. Okay. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to deplete as much CO2 out of the body as possible. because CO2 is acidic. And we want to make the body alkaline because disease does not grow in an alkaline environment. So we're trying to get the blood to alkaline, and that's where the first step of the process does. So we want to increase O2 levels. And it's great if you're doing the practice and you actually put an oxygen monitor on your finger. You'll actually see your oxygen levels in your blood go up.
Yeah.
So after 30 or 40 times, we'll take one deep breath in and let go. And then we'll do a breath hold. And what that is doing, you'll be able to hold your breath for a super long time, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, because your body is so alkalized and so full of oxygen that it doesn't trigger the brainstem to go, hey, dummy, you need to start breathing or we're going to die. And so a couple of things are happening there scientifically. One, you're going to start feeling your hands tingle and your feet tingle. That is your blood decalcifying itself, which is great because you don't want calcium in your blood because that's what causes heart disease and other diseases, causes plaque in the arteries. You're also alkalizing your blood, like I stated. And then you're putting your body in a state of hypoxia. And hypoxia is the lack of oxygen or the deficiency of oxygen to your tissues. And that's, if it's controlled in a short burst, hypoxia could be deadly if you can't control it. This is a hypoxic state that we are controlling. So we're stressing the body. So we're actually stimulating the sympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight.
Mm-hmm.
And when we do that, what happens is your adrenal gland goes, holy cow, we got to change something. And it starts dropping massive tons of adrenaline into your body. So that charges your body. So all of a sudden you start feeling awake, you start feeling alive. And you do this 3 or 4 times. And throughout that, when you're in a hypoxic state, the actual oxygen is getting stuck to the red blood cells. So it's becomes very sticky. When we let it go, those red blood cells actually let go and go into the blood and actually increase your immune system at the same time. So this helps decrease inflammation, and inflammation is what causes most deaths from most diseases, heart disease, Crohn's disease, inflammation. So I just found that remarkable because when I actually did read the study about Wim Hof and the Renault study in Germany, when they injected him full of E. coli and he was able to do his breath work. And out of all the people that were in the study that didn't do the breath work, all got sick, the chills, throwing up, diarrhea. Wim sitting there just doing his breath work and he didn't get any symptoms at all. And the scientists go, well, you must be a superhero. He's like, no, I can teach anybody to do this. Give me 12 of your students. I'll take them to Poland. Took 12 of them students to Poland for 7 days, taught them the method, brought them back, and all 12 students were injected with E. coli that next week, and none of them got sick.
Oh, it's amazing.
So that is, I love the method because it is truly backed by science. I mean, you hear Huberman's talking about it. You hear Brecka from 10X Health. He talks about breath work. And it's just remarkable. You're seeing studies in Stanford and coming out about, and now Wim's working with the Dallas Cowboys and the San Diego Chargers to help concussions heal faster. So, and you'll see a movie coming out at the end of the year about Wim.
Love it.
Yeah, man, it's just super cool. And so the breath work is where it starts. And then in the after drop, we go through the breath work. We do 3 to 4 rounds. We charge the body. We get that adrenaline flow. And then we put you in the ice. And we recommend 3 to 6 minutes to get the full effect of it. And when you get into the ice, the science is your body feels that cold and it does exactly what it does. It goes, we got to save the core, save your heart, save all the vital organs. So the pain you'll start to feel is the restriction in your extremities. And that's trying to keep you alive. And then through that, you're producing a ton of norepinephrine, dopamine, oxytocin. And I always compare it to this. Why a paper cut hurts so bad? Because it's not enough of a wound for your body to release the hormones to kill the pain. So our bodies actually produce all the drugs that people do to get high and stuff. We produce that naturally. Cannabinoids, oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin, all these hormones that through the cold will start to fire at enormous levels. And this is where the cold has really helped me get over my depression and anxiety. and actually reduce my stress. I cannot even tell you. My wife tells me to get in the cold every day. She thinks it's the best thing I've ever did. And it's because of that dopamine dump. That's your motivation hormone. That serotonin dump, that's your happiness hormone. So if you're happy and motivated, that's a great day. And I honestly, since I've been doing this, I can't remember having a really bad day. And I know that sounds crazy. And then the last part of the after drop, and this is where it really came together for me, is because I was feeling healthy and I felt great, but my body was breaking down. I hit 40 and I'm like, I got to work out harder. I got to do more. I got to go to HIIT training and boot camps and doing all this. Well, felt like I was working out 4 days a week. And I felt like I looked great, but I was injured all the time. And I had an Achilles problem that I couldn't walk after playing around the golf. It just was a golf ball. And I met AJ Klein, who lives across the street from me with the Buffalo Bill. Used to play for the Panthers too. And I asked AJ, I go, who fixes you? They get you on the field in a week. And he goes, well, go see Dr. Laura down at Rogan Spine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you know Dr.
I do.
Laura. Yeah,
I do.
she saved my life, man. She walked in there. I told her about my ankle. She made me do a couple exercises. She goes, nothing wrong with your ankle. She goes, your left hip doesn't fire at all. And I was like, I'm in great shape. She goes, no, you're not. She goes, showed me why I wasn't. And then introduced me to Rich. And then Rich showed me true way of working out, the right way, building the foundation properly through alignment, stability, and power. And I'm walking again. I'm jumping rope again. I'm sprinting with my kids again. And I start telling Rich about Wim Hof. And then we start talking about the science, because his is all backed by science. And I go, why don't we put these things together and create a workout program that does it all, man? Like, it really checks all the boxes: hormone balance, longevity, power and happiness. And you put it all together into one program and we're able to do it 10 times cheaper than if you did all these things separately, because I'm paying $600 a month when I'm going to a chiropractor, a spa to do cold plunges, going to HIIT training at Barry's boot camp or wherever I was going, which I used to. And you add all that up and I'm like, who has the time to do all that, number one?
Yeah.
And who has the money? So we wanted a program that everybody could afford and be inclusive. That if you're 20, 30 pounds overweight, you could do our program. If you're an elite athlete, you should do our program, because 9 times out of 10, you're not aligned and you're working out wrong, and you're going to get hurt. So it's meant to be for everybody, and it's meant to be affordable, and it's meant to be fun and create a community.
Yeah. Well, and it works. And for people that know me, they know I went through a similar experience that you just described. I thought I was never going to run again after I experienced some extreme pain, not from any sort of accident or impact, but just, I guess overtraining, and went to see Dr. Laura and then went to see Rich, and changed my life too. So I had, now I got to experience after drop, and I got to do the breath work and the cold plunge as well. So definitely a fan. Talk to us about the mindfulness piece.
Yeah. The mindfulness piece is the hardest, right? So getting in the ice never gets easier. It's the one thing I tell people. I've been doing it for years now. And I went in it this morning and it was 40 degrees out or whatever. It was chilly. And I'm like, oh man, this is, but it's the toughest thing I'm going to do all day. It's just to get that center, just bear down. And then once I'm in it, you get that rush, and then it just, nothing seems hard after that. I don't know how else to explain it. And Wim explains it like this. You have two nervous systems, right? You have your sympathetic, which is your fight or flight. Yeah. And you have your parasympathetic, which is your relaxed digestion, sleep, nervous system. The method with the cold and the breath work actually blends the two together. So when you do have a stressful thing happen in your life, or something goes wrong, or you're in a meeting where somebody really pisses you off, it's not, that transition between the nervous systems isn't as dramatic. So my patience is higher. I'm more relaxed, and I think I'm just more empathetic altogether through a breathing that's free to do and jumping in some ice.
Yeah. Well, like when you get in the ice, I mean, I don't, because I experienced this. Maybe you can talk me through what happens. But I mean, when you get into the ice, like your body, you don't have to think, like your body just reacts
Yeah. Instantly.
instantly. Yeah. I mean, what happens? Because then after a little while, because I remember like I think I did like 3 minutes or something, but you like the one that I did, you said you gave everybody like essentially permission to do like 2 minutes, but it could stay in for another 3 minutes if they wanted to. And I remember like telling myself at like a minute 20 or something, I'm like, I'm getting out at 2 minutes. Like, there's no way I'm making it three. And then something happened. Like when I got to like a minute 50 or 2 minutes or something like that, I was like, wait a minute, I can stay. This is not that bad. So like, there's an adjustment that happens very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's two things. One, if you're doing the breath work prior, you're activating your brown fat. So your brown fat is responsible for warming your body. That's basically your temperature control for your body. So you're actually activating that. And then when you're in the ice, you're actually stimulating your vagus nerve. Your vagus nerve actually is what activates your parasympathetic nervous system. It gets you into that relaxed state. So once you get past the overall pain of the vascular constriction, because that's what you're feeling.
Yeah.
And I could always feel where I'm the most inflamed. Like I had arthritis in my hands, and I say I had because my hands don't hurt anymore. Wherever you're, like when I had lower back pain, when I was going through the hip stuff, I could feel it there. I really feel the ice finds where the inflammation is, and that's where you feel the worst pain. But once you're able to center, and the way I do it is I picture my brain actually, and I picture that brain stem where all the stuff is happening, where it's releasing all the hormones, where it's telling the body to shut down the extremities, it's telling the body to warm itself. And that calming, that I know my body is functioning at an elite level and it's doing all this stuff, is what calms me down to say, oh my God, my body's working the way it should. I should feel all this stuff. And I don't know, that gives me a sense of calm.
Yeah.
So when I was staying in there for 20 minutes, over 20 minutes, it's almost, you get into this meditative state, and it's a relaxing state for me.
Yeah. And to your point, I mean, the breath work, the mindfulness, and the ice, they all work together, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's Wim's, that's what Wim preaches. And being in a room doing breath work with Wim is something I highly suggest anybody who's into breath work go and do, because you'll never have an experience like that.
So one thing I kind of want to just backtrack on a little bit, just going back to your podcast that you did with Bill, because like, as we talk about this ice and breath work and the mindfulness, I am sure there's people listening that are skeptical, or, even maybe there's placebo effect and some of these things. But like on the podcast that you did with Bill, you talked about, like testing things out and trying to figure out like what's real, what's not. I just wonder if you could share some of the things that people can hear if they go listen to your podcast on some of the things that you tried and what you found.
Yeah. Yeah. And the podcast is really a roadmap for people that get cancer.
Okay.
Because cancer, when you get that diagnosis, it kind of hits you right in the face. And we started at the very beginning. We started talking about the misconceptions of what's told to you in the hospital, and to question things, because the number 3 cause of death in the country is misdiagnosis and medical error. There's a lot of great doctors out there, but there's also nurse practitioners that are involved, and there's a lot of people involved. So having the right advocate and having somebody that can have your back when you're going through there. So that was one of the things that we tested. It wasn't an actual product or a method, but it was because somebody told me I had cancer before I knew Bill. I would take it for his word, and I would just say, this is my cross to carry, and I got to do whatever he tells me.
Yeah.
I would have never questioned that. And I think asking questions to a doctor is the right thing to do. So we learned a lot there. We learned a lot about breath work, the different types. We talked about diet and supplements. Supplements was, we actually called it something unicorn tears. It was, it was all these like snake oil salesmen selling everything that's non-FDA approved, and just some of the stuff it's made out of, like looking at the third-party certifications on supplements. 9 times out of 10, none of them, they're not even certified by a third-party lab. And they just tell you they do all these remarkable things. And if you really read the test studies, it's in a lab rat, and it's not doing much at all. I've seen things like neurogum and like stuff that Joe Rogan pitches a lot. And what's the other thing? He pitches so many different things, but a lot of them are just caffeine-based things that, of course, they're going to give you more energy. You're chewing on caffeine at a large amount. They just call it a different amino acid, but it's testing things like that are supposed to say they're healing you or giving you more energy, but they make you spike downward as fast as they did upward.
Yeah. So like talking about placebo effect, there's almost a link between that and this mindset piece that we're talking about.
Yeah.
So like you and I talked about that a little bit. I wonder if you could elaborate on it.
Yeah, placebo effect's real, right? It's proven in laboratories all over the country. They always have a placebo group, and a lot of them have the benefits. I mean, you look at Joe Dispenza. I don't know if you know his story,
Yeah.
but Joe broke his back and on a mountain biking, and he says he healed his body with his mind. He was not going to have the surgery that was going to fuse his back together. And he believed in the power of power, the power of the mind. And I'm a firm believer that the subconscious mind is dumb. Like you could program it to be whatever you want it to be, and your subconscious mind works on its own. So if you're telling it over and over that you're the best salesperson out there, eventually your mind's going to figure out how to be the best salesperson out there. If you tell them you're strong enough to go in the ice for 20 minutes and you keep telling it there, you'll do ice for 20 minutes. So the placebo effect is real, in my opinion. I think if you tell yourself you could do, and there's a vision board every year of January 1 on my vanity in my bathroom, and it says the things I want to accomplish. And I think about them daily, and I look at it daily. And I can't tell you the last time I haven't checked one of those boxes off. So I'm a firm believer in that.
That's the power. I am a big believer in the vision board. It's fueled almost all of my adventures, if not all of them. So yeah, totally resonate there. You guys are building a community with Afterdrop, and I know that community is something that's really important to you. Tell us about the Afterdrop community that is growing in Charlotte.
Yeah, it really starts with, I think the workout industry is very, very great. And I think there's a lot of great people out there, but I think if you're overweight or you're going through some sort of chronic illness, it's a community that's hard to feel accepted in. Like when I go into a gym or go into a new thing and I see the people that have been there for a year and I'm brand new and I can't do half the exercises, it doesn't feel like I'm part of that community. Mm-hmm. And then also when you get so good and you start being elite, then it gets almost competitive. What I wanted this to be is an inclusive group where when we get together, we're each other's cheerleaders. I want to build a platform where when you're down and out, and I talk a lot about the mental health aspect of Afterdrop because that is the key to it. Because if we're happy and we're producing dopamine and we're motivated, there's nothing we can't do. And that's what a community does. A community picks you up when you're down, and a community, gives you ideas and motivates you in the right way. And I want the people that are 30 pounds overweight, I want them showing up, and I want to introduce them to the people that have been there forever. And that's what Charlotte is to me, man. I think Charlotte's one of the coolest communities I've ever lived in.
So how do people do that? How do people get involved?
Follow us on Instagram. We are pretty new, but we are selling out every one of our pop-up events. So follow us on Instagram at Afterdrop CLT. That you'll find all our news. We're also on Facebook on Afterdrop CLT and LinkedIn. We're having a website built right now. And like I said, we're so new. We didn't know it would catch on like this. So we didn't have any of this stuff.
Love to be at the front of it. But yeah, so to be clear with people, there's no like brick and mortar right now. You guys are actually doing pop-ups, and they're very, very successful.
Pop-ups and giving free homework out. Like where the pop-ups are very inexpensive to come. We're just covering our cost and trying to build the brand. And we're giving homework to do in between. We do them every 90 days. The coolest part is we're having businesses reach out. Like we're having, Charlotte Running Company reached out. Scott Dvorak, he reached out and said, "Hey, we'd like to do one here." Rico's Acai Bowl reached out. "Hey, we want to do a pop up. We're into health." And so how cool is that? That like we're not even like people are asking us to come there and do team building and doing stuff for their employees. And we're doing one in Raleigh. We're actually leaving Charlotte. We're doing one in Raleigh in April 17th. So look out for that one. But our next one in Charlotte's going to be May 18th.
Awesome.
And we're hoping to do it outside in a park with this beautiful Charlotte weather.
What's the vision for the big picture vision for After Drop?
Would really like to take it to have the website up to get people adapted and not really charge at first, just give people a way to follow us and get activated. But the bigger vision is to have a subscription-based model based on the learnings from Rich O'Neill. I mean, Rich, if you're an athlete or professional athlete and you get injured in Charlotte, you go to Rich. And Rich knows how to build somebody that if you want to do yoga, you want to do a boot camp, you start with Rich and build the foundation first, and then you can do anything. Our motto is we want you to perform at an elite level for a lifetime. And that's what we want. We don't want you getting hurt. If you're not hurt, I always say aging is just a pursuit of being still. Once you stop moving, that's when you're old. If we keep moving, we stay young as long as we want to. Look at Betty White,
Yeah. So I think I want to just acknowledge the sort of progression, because we do have similar stories in terms of like the health and the kind of the strengthening. This stuff works when you're injured and you are in a place where you need healing. It works when you're moving from healing into a place of strength, and it works when you're already strong and you just want to like get stronger and continue to improve. And I think one of the things about like this podcast specifically is about adventure. And I think one of the things that like is, as I moved from that journey of thinking I was never going to run again to like ultimately climbing Kilimanjaro and doing some other awesome things, is like, for me personally, I want to stay adventure ready. Like I want to always be ready to go do something. And so what advice do you have for people, adventurers in particular, would-be adventurers that are listening to this podcast that are interested in this whole experience?
Oh man, yeah, I've seen some of the people you interviewed. I think they should be telling me that. So it's my only advice is to build the foundation properly first. Is get your body aligned and stable. Rich always says you don't take the car out on the track if the wheels aren't aligned and the bolts aren't tightened down. So even if you're a D1 athlete, or I mean, there's some people that show up at After Drop that are specimens, like when they take their shirt off to go in the ice, I'm like, good Lord, why are you here? You look like Superman. Like, and so, but then when they start working out with Rich, they're like, no wonder my knee's been messed up and I have meniscus issues. And, really, aligning, getting the tires aligned, and then we bolt you down as tight as we can. Then let's put you on the track and put you in 6th gear and let's run. But let's do it right first. And that's where, whether you're in Charlotte or not, but look for somebody that looks at alignment and stability first, and then adding power. Because when you're 80 and you're getting off a toilet, it's one power rep. You're not doing 10 reps. You're one power max effort to get off that toilet without using a handle. And that's the coolest thing. You want to be able to move until you're ready to leave, right?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, the stuff works. I've experienced it myself. And I know that what you guys are building it's amazing. It's only going to grow. And at some point, it's going to get so big and you're going to help so many people that Hollywood's going to pick up on your whole journey. And they're going to want to make a movie about Frank Wiseman. And I want to know when they do, who's going to be the Hollywood actor that's going to play you in your movie?
God, man. I mean, if I could pick anybody, it would have to be Sean Penn, man. There's no bigger badass, in my opinion.
Wow, that's a great one. I love that. And what's the movie going to be called?
Rug Burns.
Rug Burns.
Yeah, and that's because my whole career, which allowed me to do this, is I work for Tarkett, and we're a carpet manufacturer, flooring manufacturer. And my friend Bill, who passed away, we always talked on the podcast that if we ever wrote a story about this, we would call it Rug Burns. because sometimes you have to go through a little pain to get pleasure.
Man, that's a mic drop right there. I love that. Rug Burns, starring Sean Penn. Frank, this has been such a fun conversation. I learned a lot too. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today. And for those listening, I hope you've been inspired today as much as I have. I hope Frank's story has encouraged you to listen to the voice inside that calls you to adventure, because we want to hear your story next. If you have a story to tell or just need a nudge to create one, please send me an email. We'd also appreciate it if you'd help us spread the word by leaving a review and sharing or tagging Inspire Campfire in your social media. And until next time, I want to encourage you to get outside. Thanks for listening. Frank, thanks so much for being here.
Hey, thanks, Scott.